The Caesar settles the battlefield, and Russian factories declare total war. They thought he was joking, and they believed that the weapon of sanctions would make the Russian bear kneel within months. But the reality we are living today has surpassed all expectations and has broken all the traditional rules of engagement. Today, we are not talking about a mere border conflict or a passing regional dispute. Rather, we are talking about a seismic shift in the balance of global power and a pivotal moment that is redrawing the map of international influence anew. While the West is busy polishing political statements in the corridors of Brussels and Washington, Caesar Vladimir Putin came out to declare it openly before his generals and the whole world in a tone that has never known hesitation. Our goals will be achieved either through diplomacy, which you reject and stall, or through overwhelming military force, the consequences of which you will not be able to bear. Today, Russia is no longer in a phase of defense or merely enduring to absorb blows, but has officially moved into the stage of decisive action. We are talking about a military-industrial complex that has turned into a ferocious beast, with factories operating in shifts that never sleep, and engineering minds that have produced hypersonic missiles, turning NATO's most advanced air defense systems into mere children's toys or scrap metal in the face of the coming Russian storm. In these next few minutes, we will dive deep into the battlefield and analyze with facts how Moscow turned the tables. And why has NATO's nightmare become a reality that cannot be escaped? And what are the coded messages that Putin sent in his latest speech? The battlefield speaks. Absolute strategic control. Numbers in military terms do not lie, and what the Russian army has achieved over the past year is a practical and field message to anyone who doubted Moscow's ability to persevere. The Russian army has gained what is called the strategic initiative along the entire front line, which stretches for hundreds of kilometers. The Russians are no longer content with just holding their positions or protecting their new borders, but now they are the ones who determine the timing of the battle, the place of the breakthrough, and the type of weapon used. Here, we are talking about liberating more than 300 towns and major cities, some of which were considered fortified strongholds that Ukraine and NATO had spent many years building. The Russian forces did not just destroy the fortifications, but also destroyed the myth of Western military superiority. The elite Ukrainian units have fallen, those that were trained in the most prestigious military academies abroad and equipped with the latest weaponry produced by Western arms factories, under the intense barrage of Russian fire. The losses suffered by the other side go beyond the military logic of a limited operation. We are talking about the destruction of more than 130,000 combat vehicles, and among this staggering number are 15,000 pieces of foreign equipment that were touted as game changers. From Leopard tanks to Bradley armored vehicles, all the way to complex air defense systems. Today, Russian forces are not only in the final stages of achieving full control over the Donbas region, but we also see them steadily advancing on strategic fronts such as Sumy, Kharkiv, and Dnipro, in a way that has left military leaders in the Pentagon questioning behind closed doors. How can an army facing the harshest sanctions in modern history grow stronger, better equipped, and more lethal day by day? The answer lies in the fact that Russia is no longer fighting a war of attrition against Ukraine, but rather it is waging a war to change the global order. And today, the battlefield clearly shows that the balance is tipping strongly in favor of the Kremlin, the Russian industrial miracle, a weapon that cannot be stopped or countered. The real secret behind this progress on the ground is not just the bravery of the Russian soldier or advanced military tactics, but lies in the industrial miracle that Moscow has achieved under pressure. While NATO's stockpiles are suffering from a severe depletion of munitions and comparable weapons, and European governments are trying to convince their people of the value of continuing to fund the war, Russian military factories have turned into beehives working around the clock. Can you imagine that 80% of the weapons currently on the Russian front line are the newest and most advanced? Weapons never before seen on the battlefield, and not even those who call themselves Western partners possess them. We're not talking about quantity, but about quality that has killed the West's technological superiority. Kinzhal missiles and high-precision glide bombs have become a daily nightmare, destroying fortifications deep inside Ukrainian territory, and with surgical precision targets power stations, transportation hubs, and factories that support Kyiv's war effort. But the greatest shock that woke the West from its dreams was Putin's announcement of the actual deployment of doomsday weapons. The medium-range hypersonic Oreshnik missile, which Russia tested in a strike targeting a Ukrainian factory last November, represents a technological leap that the West has not yet achieved. This missile is not just a tactical weapon, but a mobile strategic deterrence message, as it flies at a speed that currently makes it impossible to intercept. Alongside it, we find the Sarmat system, the heaviest intercontinental ballistic missile in the world, and the Avangard missiles which glide through the atmosphere at speeds exceeding Mach 27, and the Poseidon nuclear submarines which move silently and swiftly in the depths of the oceans, undetectable by any radar. Putin has sent a clear message to the world. Russia's security is not up for discussion, and it is guaranteed for generations to come thanks to this arsenal, which neither America nor Europe has any answer for. The European division and confusion in Brussels. At a time when Russia's military grip is tightening, the European Union is drowning in a sea of confusion, disarray, and deep division. European leaders know deep down that they have lost the bet on defeating Russia economically, but they do not have the courage to admit this to their people. So they keep searching for imaginary leverage to stay relevant in the scene. The last card they are waving is the frozen Russian assets, desperate attempts to use these funds to support the collapsing Ukraine. But behind the scenes, there is real fear in the major capitals, especially in Belgium, which holds the largest share of these assets. Tampering with these funds is not just economic theft, but a blatant violation of international law that will lead to a collapse of trust in the European financial system and the single currency. Investors from all over the world are watching, and any reckless move could trigger a capital flight and turn Europe into an isolated financial island. Moscow, for its part, warned in strong terms that any tampering with a single cent of our money will be met with a legal, military, and economic response beyond your imagination. Today, Russia is no longer in a phase of defense or merely enduring blows, but has officially moved to a stage of comprehensive resolution. We are talking about a military-industrial complex that has turned into a ferocious beast, with factories operating in shifts around the clock, never sleeping, and engineering minds that have produced hypersonic missiles, turning NATO's most advanced air defense systems into mere children's toys or scrap metal in the face of the coming Russian storm. In these next few minutes, we will dive deep into the battlefield and analyze with facts how Moscow turned the tables. And why has NATO's nightmare become a reality that cannot be escaped? And what are the coded messages that Putin sent in his latest speech? Aman turns it into a snake, and Zolomiknan, Sarmat, Oreshnik, and Avangard, and national security. And when we move to the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, we find that the situation in Washington is not any better. Donald Trump, who built his election campaign on promises to end the war within 24 hours with just a phone call, has begun to collide with the Russians' hard rock. Trump's recent speeches have started to lose their usual luster, and observers have described them as dull and lacking in strength and impact. The crowds that expected magical solutions from Trump were surprised by a president who stumbles over numbers and faces enormous internal pressures and complicated legal cases, such as the Epstein case that haunts him. Trump now realizes that Putin is not an opponent who can be enticed with a real estate deal or simple concessions. The territorial gains achieved by Russia have put Washington's negotiating position at its weakest. Russia is no longer asking for a temporary truce to catch its breath, as it did in the previous Minsk agreements, but is demanding a comprehensive change in Europe's security architecture. Putin insists on a complete halt to NATO expansion and recognition of Russia's historical territories, and a guarantee of Ukraine's complete neutrality. These demands have now become the new reality imposed by the Russian army with its deadly weapons, and are no longer just points for discussion. Trump's failure to present a vision acceptable to Moscow could mean the war will continue until Putin fully achieves his military objectives. And by then, neither Trump nor the West will have anything left to negotiate over. We are living today through a pivotal historic moment. A moment in which the unipolar world order is collapsing, and a new multipolarity is being born, where military power and economic sovereignty dictate the highest authority. Putin's latest speech and his actions on the ground,